Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. This is the show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books, and especially TV shows. Today, we're going to be giving our top 10 TV shows of 2022. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. Hi, Roxy.
Hi, DJ.
And we have a very special guest with us today to talk about the best TV shows of the year, Mr. Lon Harris. Lon, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Cool.
Thanks for having me. Wow,
hey, everybody. Hong Kong.
Yeah, I don't know where that voice came from.
We need to get a soundboard. I need to find a way to get it to Roxy because that was our bit for. We've been doing the show a lot longer than I think we have.
Yeah,
years. We joked about the soundboard, and one day I'll do it when I have time. But listen,
it was like a Dr. Nick sound I made. I'm like, whoa,
Hong Kong.
I cleaned it with my napkin.
So like I said, top 10, we're going to be giving our top 10 TV shows of 2022. For those just tuning in to this episode, thank you for joining us. If you would like more of this show, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupid-answers, where you can watch live. You get early access to episodes. We got Patreon exclusive shows like Spider-Versity and What We're Into. If you listen on iTunes, please give us 5 stars. We really appreciate it. And if you listen on Spotify, there's a question every week. So please be sure to check that out. But listen, if you're watching live, it's a different time of year than if you're just listening. And if you're just listening to the podcast, it's the new year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're in the future.
Time travel.
Congratulations. You made it there. It's just unbelievable achievement that none of us knew we would ever get to.
It's touch and go here in December. If you guys in January may not understand. But.
Yeah. It's a coin toss every year for the past several years. But listen, New Year's, what do we do on New Year's? We do New Year's resolutions. Roxy, I'm going to jump to you. Do you have any New Year's resolutions? What are your thoughts on New Year's resolutions?
By the time they're listening to this, I have some serious New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
But as of this moment, no. I like to pick a word of the year.
Okay.
Okay.
That is like my theme of the year, I suppose. And that it can be a verb or an adjective.
Can you give me an example? What's a previous word of the year?
Yeah, so a word of the year would be something like create. And that would be like the whole year I want to focus on like create, or some years it would be build, or some years it would be like humility. Some years it would be just like whatever it is that I feel like I really need to center me for the year, so I can keep coming back to the word and just kind of remind myself what my purpose of the year was.
I think that's a great. I like that a lot. Have you ever done cognitive behavioral therapy?
I certainly have, my friend.
That's what that sounds like to me. It's like giving yourself like a rubric and like a kind of a guidebook for things that you probably are going to think in like 6 months. Anyway, I like that.
Yeah, totally. Some people, anybody who wants to borrow it, go ahead and steal it. But some people decide to do more of like a phrase or a motto.
Right, yeah.
So anything that works for you. And then I always try to, I got this from a mentor of mine. On one side, I do things I want to accomplish in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, I do things I want to accomplish that year. And if I can't draw a direct line between the thing I want to accomplish that year and what I want to accomplish in my life, then I cut it off of my year. So that's how I make my goals. And some of them are very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't do big goals that I can't control. It won't be like, be cast in 14 films, you know, like something that I have no control over whether it happens or not. It'll only be things that like I know I can do without outside forces. The only year I really didn't hit my goals was the year that we went into a pandemic, and I actually had not seen that coming.
No, fair enough. Who could have?
Nobody hit their goals that year.
That was crazy. It was like make new friends. Nah,
not happening. No.
So that's how I do my resolutions. I feel really strongly about. It doesn't have to be January 1st, but every year checking in with yourself and making sure that you are being a better person than the year before, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love New Year's time, and I love setting resolutions or goals or whatever you want to call them.
Gotcha. What about you, Lon? Do you have any New Year's resolutions, any goals for 2023?
I think goals are very important, and just like Roxy said, I think it's important to constantly be sort of checking in on yourself. How do you feel about what you're doing? What would you prefer to be doing, or what things about your life would you want to change? I'm not a big do this in January every year guy. I feel like that, to me, that reinforces like a bad cycle where like you set, and this is just me, I'm not saying this for anybody else, but for me, I will like set a goal in January, and then by like mid-February, if I realize, oh, I haven't really been doing a good job of keeping up with that goal, I give up. Like I just know this is how my brain works.
Yeah.
I'm waiting 6 weeks for my opportunity to give up. Whereas if I just, whenever it occurs to me in my life, like, you know what, I'm going to stop doing this thing that's leading to negative consequences and I'm going to change it. It's much easier to like motivate on that. If I get motivated in October, just do it rather than be like, oh, it's January, I have to make rules for myself for the next year. That's just me.
That makes perfect sense because we lose months of our lives waiting for January to set goals. Like I feel like everybody writes off November and December because they're just like, I'm gonna do this top of the year.
Right. No, I'm so like that. I'm so personally like that, where I'll be like, if it's an excuse, even if I come up with a thing like, you know, I shouldn't eat 4 hot dogs every day. That's not a thing I do. It's just an example. If I like the next day figure out what I'm going to eat instead of 4 hot dogs, I'm much better off because my natural inclination would be like, but I've got time. I can enjoy a hot dog right now. And then someday in the future, I'll figure out what else to eat other than hot dogs.
Lesson to the kids at home: don't eat 4 hot dogs. That's the big takeaway.
I got on this. I'm obsessed with this now. There was a Nancy Pelosi interview 2 weeks ago, or like a month ago, or something, and she said she eats a hot dog for lunch every day. That's her lunch every day is a hot dog, and it's hard for me to imagine a person eating a hot dog every day.
Yeah, especially how old is she at this point?
I mean, not even a health. It's not that good.
Not as old as you think.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
I think the hot dog is not.
She's that. She's 53. No, I mean, no. Like, it's not even that he's that bad for you. It's just like gross after a while. Like,
oh no, she's 82. I thought she was early 70s. She's 82. Maybe the hot dog gate works.
Yeah. It feels like the habits of the previous generations is a real scattershot, because you got a lot of people going down in like mid 60s. Like recently we've had like boom, like 60s done. And then you got people eating a hot dog every day at 82 and you're like, God bless, I guess. I don't know, man.
That was definitely like
I love hot dogs. Don't get me wrong.
I love a hot dog too.
I rep a hot dog, but I am in the mood for a hot dog maybe once a month.
Yeah.
You know, where you're like, I could go for a hot dog today.
Yes.
Like,
I think that's exactly it. A hot dog is it's a delightful treat, but it's an occasional treat. Yes. It's not a daily.
No. I remember as a kid, at least for me as a kid, a lot of hot dog and a lot of bologna action. And then you get to an adult, you're like, fuck, why? Why did I eat those?
Because Oscar Mayer had a way.
Yes.
That's the thing, DJ.
They had a way into our hearts.
Something in the way he moved.
For me, I'm typically, I guess it's less resolutions, but I always have my goals, mostly projects, mostly like, okay, am I going to get this done this year or not? So I've got probably at this point, I might not have announced, I've got a big project in the first quarter of 2023. Stay tuned for that. Wow. And then I'm working on something pretty big in the back half of 2023, but we'll see if that works out. That a lot of outside variables deciding whether I'm able to accomplish that or not. So we will see. But I don't know that I do so much. I guess on my bulletin board, I break down 3 months at a time, and then I have a little like thing in the bottom corner of stuff I'd like to get done in the year, and I normally get about half of them done, and then I feel sad about the other half. So it's
so hard. I used to do more of that, but like I'm sure you both have experienced this as well. But when a lot of what you do is like writing videos or film projects or TV, like you can only take it so far, no matter how hard you push.
Yeah,
like. Part of it is you're leaving this up to the universe, like there's like, I can finish the script. That's a goal for me, but like, I'm going to get this made is like, I'm gonna try my very best.
Yeah,
but
I'm
like
gonna
that's
do
not
what
really
I
up to
can.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's important to separate those into mini goals for anybody who's like legitimately interested in creating goals. I think it's I'm going to pitch this to 4 different people.
Yeah.
Not I'm gonna get somebody to buy this.
It's important to center them in things that you can motivate on and realize, rather than like I'm not a big like secret guy. Like I'm gonna put this energy into the world. Like, oh, okay, but you might be disappointed.
Are you guys on Manifest TikTok at all? And I don't mean the TV show. I mean like manifesting things.
No.
Okay.
I'm not a big manifester.
I'm
Let
not
me tell
really
you
on
guys,
TikTok.
I'm from Boston.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever heard the word manifest until I stepped foot in Los Angeles.
That tracks.
It is not something we do.
Mm-hmm.
But because of my 2 World Girls co-hosts, they are obsessed with manifesting things. They both believe they are witches, which is a story for a different time. But I am on Manifest TikTok. That shit is crazy. People will read like whatever they want, whatever their goal is they're trying to accomplish, say that it is, I'm going to get this TV show sold. They will implant that in a specific person's brain and then write a letter as if they were that person accepting their project, and then read it out loud like 10 times a night and then sleep with it under their pillow until it happens. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe we should put that energy into getting the project made.
Yeah. It's weird. It's you know, like it's magic stuff, and it is. I will say it is funny as somebody that grew up in the South in a deeply religious community, and you come out west, and people love to dunk on the religious, and then they do that shit, and it's like, well, fucking calm down, okay? Like don't come at me for praying to God, all right? Because you're putting notes under your pillow, hoping a genie will grant your wishes, okay? So we're not that different, is all I'm saying.
And is it in retrograde or not? I mean, it all depends on how we.
But I will say,
also, if you believe that works, isn't there a moral aspect that, like, that's your mind controlling someone? Like Inception is wrong.
Yeah,
that's 100% what I was thinking on. Like, if I did that, which I wouldn't, because it seems like a waste of my time.
Well, I don't believe it works, but if I did,
but if I did and I did it, then I would feel bad. Like, you didn't buy this because you thought my show would work. You bought it because I whispered sweet nothings into my pillow.
Yeah, like I sirened you with my siren song. Like
I love your guys' moral fortitude. If I believe that would work, I would 100% do it. I don't give a shit.
God.
But
I'm not even saying I wouldn't do. Like I would, but I would wrestle with.
But I would wrestle. Got it.
DJ, is what you heard that we weren't going to do it?
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, cool.
I would have problems with it, but I would probably
do it. But I will say I do think there is merit in the idea of like vibes. Like if you really invest in like, well, I guess this isn't going to work out, nothing's going to work out, whatever, you might trip yourself up. You might not be open to opportunities that are in front of you, or as if you're more positive, more open, not that you're actualizing that stuff. I'm not going to say that shit doesn't happen. The universe is a big place. I don't know how things work, but I don't necessarily invest in that. I don't believe in magic, but I do think if you invest I guess what I'm saying is I believe in actualizing stuff to the degree that you allow yourself to be more open to opportunities in front of you. Maybe be able to think outside of the box. Maybe find ways to work stuff in your favor. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's always what it is. It seems like it's leading to these positive outcomes, but it's really just because you're remaining upbeat and positive, and that's a better attitude to have than being negative and cynical. And
that is coming from somebody that is deeply negative and cynical. That's my MO. That's who I am. But I do try. Listen. That's all well and good. New Year's resolutions. Oh, we do have some in the chat. We're joined today by Leonard Kim and Kayla Solomon. Leonard Kim says, I tend not to make New Year's resolutions, more so just setting goals when I deem it necessary as opposed to waiting for January 1st. And Kayla Solomon says, same, but goals I have right now will be that will carry into 2023 are financial planning related. Good call. Good decision there. Let's go on a quick ad break, and then we're going to come back with our top 10 shows of 2022. Oh my God, we're back. I'm very excited to have you both to talk about TV shows, because I feel like you're both very much, I know this with Roxy, but I feel like this is true of you too, Lon. You're very much TV people. Like when I told you, hey, have a top 10, you're like, I'm good. I'm golden. I've got you covered.
Yeah, I mean, I do the Inside Streaming newsletter now, which is just like, it's all TV news, and I watch a ton of the shows, and I'm hearing about everything. So I feel like I'm more immersed now in the TV world than maybe any other time in my life, and I'm watching. I can't leave the apartment that much, so I'm watching a ton of television shows.
There's been a plague going on,
I don't know if you've heard, folks, but it's not safe on the streets. So TV is where it's at.
It's not safe on the streets or in these sheets. What does that mean? Find out. Stay tuned. So we're going to go through a top 10. I know based on past conversations, Roxy, the top 10 was probably a little bit tricky. Or were you good this year? You're like, no, I got my 10.
No. DJ, in the last 30 seconds, I have gone back and forth on one of my spots 82 times.
Wow.
Watched 115 shows to date so far.
Ooh.
Oh, that's you're beating my record.
Yeah.
And it is just like I feel personally invested in these shows in a way that is not healthy. Like if I don't put them on my top 10, they meant less to my life, and meaning less to my life was like just the whole thing is so stressful to me that I reserve the infinite right to change my mind tomorrow, the next day. These are my top 10 in my current shoes, which are socks.
Yes.
And that is how I feel. I can't even be asked to order them at this point because that feels like choosing children.
Yes.
I do feel like I worked on every single one of these shows. I worked on none of them.
Yeah.
Like this is a feat.
It's a feat. So with all that said, let's start with you. So I think Lon and I are going to go top to bottom 10-1.
Okay.
But right.
I can do that.
All right. But Roxy, no, the order doesn't matter. Willy-nilly, just going for it. Where do you want to start?
I want to start in the middle.
Okay.
Of things that it might be the end, might be the beginning.
Yeah. Time is relative. Numbers are made up.
Yeah. So on my list for sure is my favorite comedy of the year, which is Abbott Elementary.
Yes.
This is definite top 10 for me. Pretty sure it's top 5, not top 3. Excellent, really great sophomore season that they're having. Rooting for this show to run 10 seasons. This is what we have right now that I liken to The Office, or Parks and Rec, or 30 Rock.
Yeah.
I think Quinta's doing an unbelievable job. I love all the characters. It's going to win a ton of Emmys in its 45 season run, however long it goes.
Yeah.
So yes, on the list for sure.
It is also, of the comedies I watched this year, this and Mythic Quest were the only two that actually like were comedies. Like we're committed to like, hey, we're about jokes. We're not going to get into existential, make you question your life. We're just going to do jokes.
I mean, that's a weird thing. Like we kind of, the sort of comedy drama sort of style kind of not only took over and became predominant, but pushed out like all conventional sitcoms. Like there's like 4 conventional sitcoms left, and most of them are terrible.
Yeah.
So I feel like Abbott Elementary is like keeping the trend, single-handedly keeping it alive almost at the current moment. Like I think this was the only conventional sitcom I even watched this year. Like it's hard to even think of another one.
I will say it was wild watching this week's where they just try to sneak in Vince Staples as Gregory's friend. Like, hey, Vince Staples, by the way. And you're like, I need a whole, I know he's playing a character, but like, how did they become friends? Where you can't just sneak in a Vince Staples on me. What are you doing?
I think you can casually insert a Vince Staples. I don't know.
Me too.
It was very helpful for me.
I'm not anti that.
I just blew my mind. I was like, how did they become friends? What is their backstory?
They've been doing this all season though, where they get NBA players.
Yeah, but normally they're like playing themselves. It was helpful though because I was on Maude Garrett's show has a show on AMP. And there's like a radio aspect where she like picks songs. I'm like, nobody ever asked me about music, like the music I listen to. But fortunately I just watched Abbott Elementary. So I'm like, I picked my favorite Vince Staples track. We'll start with that. And then I built off of that.
There you go, yeah.
Lon.
It's one of those classic, like that's a show that built a huge fan base in season 1. Like it became like a huge cult thing that everybody loved. So now season 2, everybody's a fan, they could just get on the phone with whoever they want and be like, come by, do an episode. Like, it's always fun when you become like Chappelle Show season 2.
Yeah.
Like, he can get the Wu-Tang Clan at this point. He can get anybody.
Why not? Get him on there. Lon, what's your number 10?
I'm actually I'll try to keep it like relatively in order. I also picked a comedy series in its second season for my number 10. I like Abbott Elementary a lot, but I went with HBO Max's The Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, yeah.
In the number 10 spot. To me, this show, even more so maybe in season 2 than 1, it feels like one of those shows that's really tapping into like not anything relevant in terms of the content. Like, I don't necessarily think like a show about a family of televangelists is like the current moment, but the obsession with people being like bold liars and this idea to like live a lie, but in this very aggressive way where you refuse to admit the truth even after it's blatantly obvious, and you're just like deepening into this crazy delusion.
Yeah.
It feels so relevant right now when we're in this moment where like there is no truth, there is no, like reality. It's whatever, we all shape it for ourselves. And I feel like very few, the Boys kind of taps into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And like Tim Heidecker's On Cinema, I feel like is really relevant to this. Like how we can all just kind of live in our own reality that we're scripting for ourselves constantly every day. And I think The Righteous Gemstones live in that world. And it's so clever about how those characters see themselves and move through this world where they're both the height of corruption, but also these very proud, preening Christian figures. And it's also just really funny.
Yeah.
An amazing ensemble. Edie Patterson is incredibly funny.
I always go back.
Killing it this year.
Her monologue at the end of season 1, where you find out her relationship with the teacher in high school. You're like, oh my God. Oh my God.
She's like unbelievable on this show.
Another show that's like committed to like, hey, we're about the jokes here. We're not going to end with some sort of like existential dread or moment.
There is like, I think with all Jody Hill, David Gordon Green stuff, like there is a nugget of real reality and insight below all of it. Like it's not totally frivolous, but yeah, it's very like focused on being funny, and if you get anything out of it, great. Well done.
Yeah. I think for me, keeping up the trend, this is also a comedy, and it was very, very focused on the jokes. And I was hesitant at first to put this on my top 10 list because the question in my brain was, it is, I think, one of the best in its genre, but is it one of the best of the year? And then I had to remind myself, but this is a genre I love, and this is my list. So if I think it's the best of this genre, and I love this genre, and it's She-Hulk. She-Hulk entered in my top 10 because I think for me, it is easily the best of the Marvel Disney Plus shows. I love the way it played with not only the comic book superhero formula, but the MCU formula at this point. And as somebody that has been covering these movies and shows for a decade plus, for a show to finally be like, well, look at this. That's kind of dumb that we do this, right? And it's like, yeah, yes, finally. And I thought it was funny and it was great. I think the season finale is one of my favorite MCU bits. So yeah, for me, She-Hulk entered into squeaked into my top 10. I thought it was a really good show.
I loved that show so much. I know what you mean, and it didn't make my top 10 because I have a hard time distinguishing like favorite from best sometimes. Yes. I think if it's just favorite, it was my favorite of anything on Disney Plus this year by far.
Yeah.
And I love the show, but it was extremely controversial. Surprise. And so, yeah, I'm with you, DJ. It's like a weird, does this genre make best?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was one, I think it was because as I looked at other shows that I think might have better episodes or whatever, I think this was one of the ones like episode to episode, it kept delivering on what it promised, and it wasn't a like, you know what I mean? For the most part, it kept, it stuck to its core principles in a way that I really dug. So next up.
I was just going to say, it has a problem that I think is shared by a lot of Disney Plus shows. There's one Disney Plus show that made my list, so I don't think it applies to that one.
Ooh, which one could it possibly be?
But where the first episode of the last episode, I don't feel like they're doing a good job of setting up and then concluding a season of TV. Mm-hmm. It just feels like these kinds of gimmicky, weird like half-formed, and it throws off the whole show. And so there were a lot of episodes of She-Hulk I really liked, and I thought it was a really fun show. And I thought Tatiana Maslany was terrific, and a lot of the supporting cast and the guest stars they bring on were great. It was funny and high energy. I enjoyed it. But man, that pilot like almost made me want to stop. Well, I was so bored. I don't care. There's these two characters yelling at each other on an island, and then it has nothing. It does barely thematically even links up with the rest of the season. And then that finale, they're always doing these gimmicky, like the character leaves the reality of their show and goes and has like a conference in an office with some other character, and it was like we did it with Kang and Loki, but and we did it in WandaVision with Agatha, and like I'm tired. Like, finish your show, do an episode that wraps up the story you're telling.
I don't want to get off. I don't want to get off the rails on this, but I do think the beginning and the end do thematically connect, and I do think it does a better job. Like, I think when you say Agatha and Kang, that was more of never mind. It was Agatha and Kang all along. And it's like, but what? But I think it does, in She-Hulk, it does connect to her finding her own voice in her story. That's my take. Let's go to...
I liked it. It's a good... I'm not trying to knock it. Yeah. It's a good show.
This isn't about what you didn't like, Lon.
It made my... It would have made the runners-up list.
Roxy, next up.
My runners-up list is literally 70 shows.
Yeah, my runners-up list isn't that long, but it is pretty long. My runners-up list is almost the entire slate, AMC Plus's entire slate.
Yeah, I liked a lot of it.
Fucking great. Like almost every single one, I'm like, oh, this show's amazing. Anyway, Roxy, what's your next one?
I wouldn't be surprised if this is on Lon's list as well. TJ, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm going House of the Dragon on this one.
Runners up list. Loved it. I did love it. It just didn't make my top 10.
It's number 12, folks. Number 12 on Lon's list.
If you had asked me after the pilot if this was going to make my top 10 list, I would have pissed in your cereal. There just would have been no way. But then this show grew on me like a leech. Mm-hmm. I was so invested. And when I think at the end of the year, what were the things I was recording that week that I had to watch first? And what were the things I didn't even get to record because I tried to watch in real time? I never made it to a Monday morning without having watched House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
That never once happened. So to me, that shows what I was prioritizing, what the people wanted, and also talk about performances from 7 different casts.
Yeah,
because they just continued to time jump. So yeah, this is a top 10, and honestly, I'm mainly speaking for the people. I'm the voice of the people right now.
This to me is like to come back after the critical fan cultural drubbing that the final 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, and not only get people interested in this world again baseline, but genuinely recapture the excitement everybody I think used to feel before a new episode of Game of Thrones, build to that level of passion and intensity, and was like, I gotta find out what happens. That's no easy feat. They're making it seem like it's not that hard. That's really hard.
And I think it shows that they did a part of the many things that they did is I feels like they paid attention to the criticism, but they didn't apologize for it. I think the temptation would have been have some character in the show in some way voice it'd be dumb if we did this, right? And they're like, no, listen, we did it. We're not even necessarily ashamed of it, but we know you all didn't like it. So what can we do? And one of the answers to that question was maybe instead of following 15 different plot lines, we follow one and really just drill into that one family and one story.
Well, it's fascinating how they did that. That Game of Thrones is this sprawling, you've got 12, 14 houses you're following at a time, and we're really only keeping it within one house in the show. We barely even, it's not like you're constantly jumping to Highgarden and going north of the Wall and, Dorne in this scene. And it really, and that, it pays off beautifully. I think you do get a lot more time with Rhaenyra and with the High Towers and all these central characters.
Great, I love it. Great choice, Roxy. Great choice, Lon.
I'm just very smart.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump over to Hulu for my next one. A rare limited. I feel like limited series are going away. All the limited series, once they get too popular, they just become TV shows now.
White Lotus.
But this one is a rare actual limited series, The Dropout. The Theranos story with Elizabeth Holmes. The sort of Amanda Seyfried, incredible performance as Elizabeth Holmes. And I was pretty cynical. I'm not a huge like true crime guy and all these like rip from the headlines type shows that Hulu does. I'm usually not a huge fan. There was that one, The Act, a few years ago that I thought was really creepy.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I don't love like living people's real life misery as drama necessarily, but man, this show was so interesting and insightful into not only what Elizabeth Holmes was up to and what she was like, but how she manipulated all of these powerful people and how she sort of used the perception that, tech is hostile to women and there aren't enough women in tech, which is so true, but how she like rode that to do this fraud is so fascinating. And, Laurie Metcalf has a supporting role in it where that really explores that dynamic, and the performances were great. It's really weirdly funny, and it sort of drills into just what an oddball she and Sunny Balwani were. It's a really like smart show that really upended my expectations for what it was going to be.
Roxy, I'll get to it. I haven't seen it yet.
I obviously saw this, and you can't be a TV, like if you're watching 115 shows and you've seen the show, you can't think about your top 10 list and not think about putting this on there, because it's just so well done. Yeah. So then it comes down to a matter of taste. There was so many true crime shows this year.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know.
As I was going through my stuff, I was like, okay, there's true crime. And then there's the different category of like whatever we're calling Dahmer, the true crime murder things.
Yeah.
I feel like a much better person when I watch the true crime science things. They probably have low key similar amount of deaths because of what happened on that show. It's great. It's excellent. I think it suffered from the fact that there were so many this year. That there was We Crashed and Pam and Tommy, which
Super
obviously
Pumped was the same time too. That
same thing.
Show,
there was just so many that this didn't quite make my list, but it was so great.
For me, the next one on my list is another show you can watch on Hulu. It's an FX show, but FX on Hulu, Reservation Dogs, Season 2. Love that show. I think it's fantastic. I love the way it balances comedy and more emotional stuff and more kind of surreal elements. I love looks into aspects of our culture that I'm not immediately exposed to. I think the performances are amazing. I think the directing is amazing. And I like it does what a lot of like Rami did this year and a lot of other, comedy dramas where you kind of like zoom in on different characters and their stories. Like we got a lot to see an episode following Bear's mom and her friends, which was great. Yeah. I love Reservation Dogs last year. I love it this year. It's one of my favorite shows.
I'm a huge fan. It's later on my list, so I guess I'll save some of my own comments for when I pick it. But the one thing I was going to say is I think season 2, even more than season 1, this might be the most realistic lived-in show about teenagers ever made. I feel like we used to talk about like Freaks and Geeks that way, but Freaks and Geeks still feels like a comedy series where the teenage characters talk like they're on a comedy series. Yeah. Reservation Dogs is funny, but these feel like real kids to me. I can't separate the actors from their characters. I feel like I know these teens in this world, and it's so lived in and it's so realistic moment to moment. It's almost eerie in a way. Yeah, I think this is clearly one of the best seasons.
And there's not like a weak link in the cast, especially, and you'll get episodes with Zahn McClarnon where he gets high with one of the meth heads and they go on their little woods journey.
Episode was amazing. Yep, fantastic. Episode was amazing. Yeah.
And it toes that line where it never gets too heavy, but it never it just rides this really great line. Anyway, great show. Lon's going to talk about it more later.
Also, the Prey actress Amber Midthunder had a really funny cameo.
Hilarious, fucking hilarious. Roxy, what were you gonna say?
I also love this show. I didn't love season 1. I liked season 1. I loved season 2. I think it really just lived in itself way more, and I was invested more in the characters, which happens a lot of times in a sophomore year of a show, especially like this kind of show. One thing that I think you'll be excited about, DJ and Lon, if this is appearing on your list later, is that on all of my respected lists that I look at of top 10s, this was on almost every website. I was shocked by that. I was shocked because none of my friends watch this show.
No.
Not none of them. You guys watch this show.
We do, yeah.
But the like when I go back home to Boston, nobody's talking about this show.
No, I had to yell at I told my mom like 3 weeks in a row, like, you got to be watching Reservation. She still would. It got to be like almost hostile, where I was like, listen, just give it 2 weeks. And like now she's a huge fan. But like, yeah, I don't know. There is a resistance, I think, for whatever reason.
Yeah. So I just think it's great that the people who are talking about shows do watch this show.
Yeah. Roxy, what's next on your list?
Okay. Again, I just want to keep saying in no specific order. Next on my list is The Patient. This is the show that I begged people to watch.
Like me.
And I know for some people it didn't stick the landing, but for me, the ride was worth whatever ending we were going to come to. I can't believe they made this show as entertaining as it was. I feel like that's a weird word, but like why I loved this show is kind of beyond me. It's really like taking a bottle episode of a TV show and making it an entire season. But it was just exhilarating. I mean, another show that I couldn't wait till the next day to watch, would stay up late to make sure that I did watch the show. I thought the performances were wild, and I also loved the people who were watching it every week being like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Is he living or dying? What's happening?
I appreciate you making me watch it. It did not make my top 10, but I did love it.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's somewhere in the teens or early 20s, but I really liked it. And my fervent hope is that it brings people back to The Americans, a criminally underseen show from the same creators.
Yes.
And like, if you like The Patient and have not gone back and watched The Americans, it's like one of the best ever shows you ever seen.
Yeah, 100%. And I hope this gets them. They can just keep doing this, like little whatever, like just keep let them do this stuff.
Yeah, dialogue driven thriller, personality, character study stuff. Yes, forever.
What's next on your list, Lon?
Moving to number 8, another Hulu show. I'm keeping us centered on Hulu. This had 2 seasons this year, so I feel like I should differentiate. I enjoyed both. We're talking Atlanta.
Yeah.
I enjoyed season 3 of Atlanta, but I don't know if it totally held together for me. I felt like it was a little out there with all of the sort of spin-off episodes where we weren't following the main cast. At a certain point, I like missed the core. It felt almost like a distraction. But man, season 4, incredible. Totally stuck the landing. Exactly the kind of stuff I love from Atlanta. I thought it had an amazing season finale that both felt like in line with the absurdist humor of the show, but also really touching and really like brought it all home. I thought Brian Tyree Henry was outstanding in a ton of stuff this year, including this show. I love these characters. I love this like weird little corner of the world that Donald Glover and his brother and Hero Mirai created. And I'm sad that we don't get to go back to that Atlanta.
This is on my list too, Lon. And it's not because it was the best year for Atlanta. It's because this show was one of the best shows on TV, and now it's done, and it had 2 seasons this year.
Yeah.
It's just like what this show did for how TV shows can be made and what they can talk about and the directions they can go is great. And the core 4, as we call them, are like the best cast we've seen on any show ever, so just in general, yes.
Did not make my list because if I'm being candid, it kind of lost me with these 2 seasons where it kind of just felt like it never became cohesive again. Like it never became like it really felt like even in season 4 to me, like an anthology. And so it's hard for me to emotionally invest in the same way because I never felt like I was able to connect with them. Episode to episode, I really liked. I thought it was good overall, and there's specific episodes that I really loved, even in season 3.
Yeah, there are season 3 episodes I think are fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't mean.
In some of them, even
the funeral, the one where the kid
oh my God.
was raised by the sort of Dominican. Or no, I forget where she's Trini. She's from Trinidad.
Yeah.
That episode is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so incredible,
funny,
and so again,
really
like,
well done.
Episode, it's just for some, it never and it felt experimental to the point of almost feeling indulgent to me. Like it felt like I'm watching Donald Glover's student films. Like you know what I mean? It's like
three had that feel for me, but I thought 4 they brought it all home.
But
there was just so many episodes that I'm with you, DJ, on some of them. But like because we got 2 seasons this year, there was enough that to put together. Like because some of the episodes were so poignant, and other of the episodes which worked for a ton of people, like the Goofy movie episode, I was like,
wild.
This is
I
wild.
like that one.
This is wild.
Yeah.
This is not my favorite episode of Atlanta ever, but I could see why people are obsessed with this, you know, things like that. And then there was more about our core 4 other times. So I think that it was like a little bit of a grab bag. Take what you want, leave what you don't.
I love the Tyler Perry one this year.
Liked it.
Chocolate Studios.
Yeah, liked it. Didn't crack my top 10. I'm going to flip to just because I want to kind of see how far we can keep this Hulu thing going. Another show.
Hulu killing it.
Killing it. Technically an FX show, but also FX on Hulu. The Old Man. Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow in a spy thriller. This was always going to be on my top 10. I just love this show. I like this show for the same reason I like a lot of shows and a lot of shows on this list where it does the work. It's not that like crazy exciting things don't happen on this show, things that might seem outlandish, but it does take the time and takes the steps to get you to a point where a reveal or something like that makes sense. And again, I can't stress it enough. If you have a show where John Lithgow and Jeff Bridges are just interacting and having really engaging conversations, there is no way that wasn't gonna like be somewhere in this conversation for me. So Old Man really blew me away. Really loved it. Very interested to see what we do in season 2.
I loved it too. I think that because of outside things, they were not able to land this finale the way that I was hoping. And we are going to see more, but just in general, I think it started so strong and then kind of trickled a little bit for me.
Yeah.
I'm with Roxy on this one. It really, the first 2 or 3, I was like, hell yeah. And like, exactly like you said, I love Bridges, love Lithgow. They're both great in this. And, even like Aaliyah Shawkat is terrific in this. And like, it's a great cast. I was really sucked in at first. It's a little slow and it's a little labored for me. I feel like by the end of the season, it started to feel kind of repetitive. I felt like at first the show was way ahead of me, but then I sort of caught up by the end of the season and it stopped feeling as moment to moment compelling. Like, I don't know. I don't know that I got as sucked into this world as they kind of wanted me to. And I was more just kind of sticking around because I'd invested so much time. I'll probably go back for season 2, but I'm not positive. I kind of ended up not loving it.
You definitely are going back for season 2.
Dude, I don't know, man. There's so many shows. This could be. This is right on that border of.
There are a lot of shows.
I might cut it loose depending on where I am next year.
Roxy, what's next on your list?
Okay, next on my list is, I think, it's been so many months since this show came out that I feel like it's not going to be on as many people's lists as it should be. And that show is Ozark. I love this show. I think that at points this show was as good, if not better, than Breaking Bad. I don't know why it's not being like spoken about as one of the greats ever. I don't know what happened that people just kind of fell off of it. I feel like it came out of the gate more strong, but I love what they did with this final season. And I actually think, didn't we get 2? We got the first half and the last half.
It was broken into 2 parts. Yeah.
Netflix needs to commit to an episode a week. They're like, maybe we split up the seasons. Dude, just drop an episode a week. Give up on it, Netflix. Come on.
Yeah. Ozark. Love the show. So good.
Yeah, I liked Ozark a lot. I thought it finished pretty strong. It kind of had that. It kind of does the Sopranos thing where there's sort of like the villain of the season, and every new season is a little bit of like a reboot, and it does feel like, oh, okay, so we're just chasing like this new cartel nemesis guy now. And there was a little bit of that this last season, but I thought Julia Garner got to finish on a really like nice note. And there were people who didn't like the final beat of the whole show. I thought it was brilliant, like a really interesting way to be like, there's no escape. It's a totally fatalist sort of view. Like the whole show's been about they're going to get away. But in the end, we kind of come around to this idea that it's gone too far. There's no going back. And like, I thought that was a really like interesting and provocative sort of note to end on. So I salute them there.
Thank you. As I told you, I have personal development in all of these shows.
All these shows.
Yeah,
yes,
well, you're welcome. But yeah, this would have been like in the, in my runners up pile.
I will watch it eventually. Lon, what's next on your
Come on, DJ.
Like Lon said, there's a lot of shows. All right.
Yeah. We're moving over the only Showtime appearance in my top 10. Probably not a lot of people with a Showtime appearance, maybe, but here we go. Yellow Jackets. This was another early in the year. I feel like maybe forgotten now and not pop up on as many top 10s. Although it's coming back, I think in March. A rare show. Almost always when a show jumps between multiple plot lines or time frames, I like one more than the other. I'm like, I wish we'd get out of these flashbacks and back to like the main. Even another show that may be appearing on some lists, Andor, there were flashbacks built in, and I was like, I'm done with these flashbacks. Let's get back to the present, folks. Yeah. Yellow Jackets, they somehow managed to make the teen survival story in the woods compelling and the adults covering up their mysterious old crime story compelling. I think a lot of it was just great casting of both groups of girls and women, but really clever, kept me sort of right on the edge of my seat the whole time, and really funny. And I'm really enjoying the Christina Ricci Zonce that I feel like this was a major tentpole of her comeback to prominence. And yeah, I really like Yellow Jackets.
This is on my list too, Lon. This is a definite winner on my list. You're right. I don't know if people are talking about it as much because it was earlier on in the year. However, this in its freshman year, this show getting as much award buzz as it did was awesome for it.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of pressure going into the sophomore year to see if they're able to perform the way that they were the first season, which a lot of, I think what we loved was how new and fresh it was.
Yeah.
I'm curious if I think the second season is either going to be significantly worse or great. And so I'm really rooting for great.
Yeah, it's tough with I don't have a Showtime subscription. Sorry, everybody. But it is tough when you're a more serialized show and you've got that kind of heat coming in off your first season of like, paying off and building off that. For me, now that we're officially off of our Hulu train for right now, going over to HBO Max, We Own the City. If David Simon's putting out a new show, it's probably going to be on my top 10 list. I love his procedural breakdown of how our society fucking blows. And this one was at first, the first few episodes felt almost like an essay, almost like I was in a very interesting college lecture about this event in Baltimore. But by the end, fucking god damn it, I was genuinely devastated by some of the events in the finale of the show because they're real events that really happened. And it was tough to. There's a particular police officer that seems like a genuinely good person, and things do not go well for them. And seeing the families push back on that in the real world, but then digging into what actually happened, it's like, oh, the show's actually this is probably what happened. I get why you don't want that to be the case, but this is probably what happened. Heartbreaking, and really, I really got its hooks into me, and it really speaking to our moment in a lot of ways, and I highly recommend people check it out. John Bernthal, of course, fucking amazing, great performances across the board.
Yeah, Jamie Hector was Sean Suter, who I think is the character you're talking about.
Yes.
Another unbelievable performance. He was so good. And Josh Charles too is playing a terrifying racist Baltimore cop.
Yes.
And it's honestly chameleon-like from Sports Night. Like, he doesn't look the same. It's a remarkable sort of terrifying turn. Yeah, I thought this was really, really powerful too.
Yeah,
this is the only show that we've mentioned so far that I have not watched.
Wow.
Recommend. It won't make you happy. It won't bring you happy feelings, but it is a good show.
I love not being happy.
That's like fucking David Simon's thing. Like, I still like when we talk about Oscar Isaac performance, I always think of Show Me a Hero. I think that was what it was called.
Yeah, fucking that's another David Simon.
But also just utterly devastating. Just like,
oh my god,
heartbreaking.
Very heavy. I also have to say props to John Bernthal's Baltimore accent in this. Not an easy accent to nail.
No.
And he absolutely, I've got family from Baltimore. He nails it to the wall. It's perfect.
And also props to John Bernthal because he doesn't necessarily seem like the type of person, I think you all know what I'm saying when I say this, that would sign on to this particular material. And I appreciate his commitment to it.
Wow. Yeah.
Roxy, next up.
DJ.
Yes.
The thing that is next on my list is, it's like, where do I want to go? Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
I love this show. People think that this show is not as good now. I don't care what they say. We finally got a moment this season. I don't want to give spoilers for anybody who's going to watch it, where we kicked the living bejerky out of somebody who deserved it, and it felt like it made all 45 seasons prior. I think we're only on season 6. Yeah. So worth it. Like, this is so good. People say that they're sick of Elizabeth Moss's acting. I am not. I think she just brings it every single second of every single moment of every single frame. And this show is way too similar to some of the things that women go through now. And it's poignant and prevalent and great and interesting, and one more season, and they set it up so that I feel like we can actually wrap up in one season. I love this show.
I have not seen it yet.
I really liked the first season. The second season kind of lost me, and I stopped watching the Handmaid's. All right,
sorry,
you are years behind.
I know. Right at this point, it's like I don't even know. Like, I could go back and catch up, but it'd be like Grey's Anatomy at this point. It's a lifetime commitment to catch up.
Yeah, Roxy's talking about The Walking Dead, and similarly, I watched the first season and then kind of stopped in the second season, and it's like, well, that ship has sailed. It's not happening.
I actually think I'm only like 2 or 3 seasons from, like, I could theoretically finish Walking Dead. I think easier than Handmaid's Tale at this
Lon, what's next on your list?
Let's keep it in the Viacom Paramount Global family and move over to I'm shocked. I am shocked. I have not loved a new Star Trek TV show since like Deep Space Nine. I'm as shocked as anyone to find a Star Trek show in my top 10, but I thought Strange New Worlds was absolutely brilliant. Like,
blast. It's a blast.
It's also doing a thing that I wish so many more franchises would do, and going back to purely old school, episodic, week to week adventure of the week. Hey, we're going to this planet. Let's do a mission. Here's the crew. We're doing it. Oh my God, the aliens have this kind of technology. It's like a classic Star Trek show in every sense of the word. They're having so much fun with it. Anson Mount is like already one of my favorite Star Trek captains.
Yep.
The vibes on the show are just immaculate. It's like exactly what I want from a Star Trek show. I also enjoy Lower Decks on Paramount Plus, but this Stranger World's the gold standard.
Yeah, we watched my wife and I watched all of Strange New Worlds. Loved it. It's a blast. I love the episode. I call it the submarine episode because there's a whole space battle that's essentially like a prolonged, what would be in our world, a submarine battle. Great. And I love that they're not embarrassed about being Star Trek to the point where it's like, something's going on with the Doctor's mind, and suddenly we're all fantasy characters. Fuck it. You're going to watch it anyway.
It's pure throwback, like original series Star Trek. And so many like clever Easter eggs and callbacks that you don't need to be like an expert Trekkie to get everything. If you don't get it, it's not a big deal. But if you are catching the references, it's very clever.
Yep. Roxy, is this one that was on your radar?
This is not even one that I watched. I feel like I'm letting my Super TV fans down, knowing that there's 2 shows that have come up so far that I have not seen.
But as we've mentioned prior, a lot of shows.
So many shows.
Speaking of a lot of shows, I feel like based off hints Lon's laid down that this might also be on Lon's list, so I won't spend too much time on it. Andor. There's a Star Wars show on DJ's list? On DJ's list? Yes, that's how good Andor is. It's so good.
Andor is the next item on my list, so we might as well combine those 2 segments and talk about Andor.
Mind-blowing. Because, Lon, you don't know, but Roxy knows. We've talked about this before. I don't really consider myself, especially at this point, a Star Wars fan. Like, there's a better chance of me not liking a Star Wars thing than me liking a Star Wars thing at this point. And after Obi-Wan, I was like, I think I might listen, me and Star Wars have just grown apart. It's not meant to be. And then within the first couple episodes of Andor, I'm like, oh, I'm so sold. I am in it to win it. And I don't think there was a bad episode of this season.
No, I don't think so either.
Andor was a top 50 show for me this year.
Yeah, it did not click for Roxy, but she's wrong about this.
I didn't dislike it at all. It was it was solid show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, it's like Star Trek is Star Wars. We could go to different planets. It's different characters. It's different scenarios, different timelines. But everybody always tries to get back to that George Lucas tone from the original trilogy, that like retro adventure serial, like kind of campy, a little hokey throwback. We're going on a hero's journey in space.
Yeah.
And for good or bad, I think even like Rian Johnson, like even the people who've tried to sort of put a different spin on it, they always try to recapture that in some way because that's what we expect from the franchise. And I think Tony Gilroy's just brass balls to come in and be like, nope, I'm gonna
not at all
70s conspiracy paranoia thriller tone. We're gonna stick with that the whole time. There's not gonna be goofy aliens and robots, no Jar Jar type character, and we're gonna stick to this. Is so refreshing, reinvents what a Star Wars show could be. Like, I don't think they all should be like this. I'm glad there's Favreau and Filoni doing their own thing as well. But man, this was such a breath of fresh air. I absolutely loved it. And I think I would also say I think Stellan Skarsgård is giving one of the best performances in Star Wars. Like it may be anything Star Wars. I think he's a top 5 or 10 character.
And what I like about especially the dynamic between Andor and Luthen and the difference in performance between Stellan Skarsgård and Diego Luna is Skarsgård gets all like the speeches and like the dialogue stuff, and it just nails it to the wall, right? But I like what Diego Luna is mostly his face reacting to things and reacting to things, observing things, processing things. Great across the board. Bummed we have to wait 2 years for a second season, but so grateful that this happened. Like you said, Lon, I don't need Star Wars to suddenly become this all the time, but I think the promise of Star Wars is that a galaxy far, far away, all this stuff, there's so many things you can do. I hope this opens a door for more variation in the formula, and I'm grateful it gave us this. Roxy, next up on your list.
So I only have 3 shows left because I spoke about some of the shows that Lon spoke about too. So I don't want somebody to think this is my number 3 show. It probably is towards the end of the top 10 list. However, no one's speaking about it, and that's devastating because it was great from beginning to end. And that is This Is Us. This is a show that deserves its flowers in its final season. They stuck the landing so hard on this show. They tied every bow they needed to tie. They talk about the opposite of what DJ said. If you want a show that makes you feel good, like it's going to be okay even when it's not okay, this is the show for you. And I think that because there are so many HBO, Netflix, whatever style shows that are raunchy and like more flashy and impressive, this show, just being a simple family drama, did not do as well 6 years in. But if you liked it the first season, it sold you exactly what it would be. It was true to itself the entire time. It never jumped the shark, and then it just was like, here's the landing, let's go.
Hell yeah, I have not watched it.
I've never seen an episode of this TV show. I'm sorry, folks.
So
it's really good.
We're glad you're here to rep it. Lon, what's next on your list?
So this is number 4. Like I said, number 3 is Reservation Dogs, which we've already talked about. So we can jump over that. But at number 4, so I also only have 3 then.
Yeah.
At number 4, HBO Max's The Rehearsal.
Yes.
Nathan Fielder's incredible comedic reality experiment, social experiment. Who even knows how to even define what is going on with this show? But I thought it was absolutely captivating, hilarious. One of those. It's like it's lightning in a bottle. If one element didn't work, the whole show kind of collapses, but they're just somehow keeping all these plates spinning. The the way that he can end up in a scenario with that guy, Robin, the guy who's like the numbers, the guy who's always paying attention to numbers, who's like, you can drive a car. You don't need a license to drive a car or a license plate or whatever. Like to organize a scenario that puts Nathan Fielder in the same room with that guy and lets him react to him is just like everything that has to go right to even get them there. It's like this show, it's like a miracle. Yeah, I really feel that way.
Roxy,
this is my number 2 show.
Yeah. It's on my list too. It's on my list too. I just marked it off.
Because how could it not be? You can't watch this show and think like, oh, I've seen that before. It's really like it reinvented the wheel. And in a way that was so expensive, I couldn't believe it. The way that we decided to bring a bar across country with us and just like every detail, it's not like DJ Lon and I decided to make this show and just were like punking people. The amount of love and care TLC that had to go into this production is disturbing. And every episode I was like, do I suck as a person? Like, I don't know what to make of the fact that I cannot look away. I actually think I love Nathan. That seems to be very problematic. He might not be the best of dudes. And also as an added cherry on top, just the whole Jewish element and him like shutting down, like that's actually very anti-Semitic in that moment. And me being like, this, like, you're also making points that matter and you're repping, but you're also changing people's lives and you're weird and quirky and it looks great. This show is so good.
I also was always impressed with how it was able to surprise me with how deep the rabbit hole went. Like reveals, like when he's like looking out the window and snow's coming down and he's like, and winter's expensive to produce. And then you see that they're manufacturing winter and it's like, of course they are. And I am mad at myself for not realizing, of course he's faking this because that's the bit of the show. That's and there'd always be these like reveals of like, no, actually it's a layer deeper than you think. And it's like, how though?
Yeah. And there was so much commentary on the show that was about what the show is at core about. Like people sort of kept going like, is this morally okay? And what does this say about reality shows and about pranks and about child actors? It's like, all of those things are baked into the show. You're not bringing that to Nathan Fielder. That's what we're already talking about. Yes. It plays as pure comedy, but it's actually very thoughtful. In the same way, like Sacha Baron Cohen stuff is like, there's real insight. It's not just zaniness, even though Borat is very zany.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
I actually think that if every year we had to put one show in a time capsule to represent that year, and then leave it for Martians to find whoever, this is the show of the year. Where are we at as a society in 2022? What piques us? It's either something like this or a Dahmer, and I just refuse to put Dahmer in a capsule. This is the show of the year that kind of swept the internet, and we were like, whoa, this was the Tiger King of this year.
I have lost. Wait, Lon, that was you, right?
That was me. That was my number 4 of the year.
I only have one left.
Okay, and so I'll drop one real quick. I don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Primal, HBO Max animated series from Gendy Tartakovsky. Brilliant, fucking brilliant. I think by and large, season 2 is even better than season 1, except for one episode. They do one like away from our main characters episode that I think takes it away from what makes Primal special. It's still a good episode, just whatever. It's brilliant. It follows a caveman and a dinosaur on their adventures. There's almost no spoken dialogue. It's the visual storytelling in Primal is unparalleled. Highly recommend it. Roxy, what's your last one?
It's obviously going to be on both of your lists too.
Yep.
If it's not, then I don't know how we call ourselves TV people. It's Severance.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
My number 1, folks.
Same.
It's Severance. I don't mean to be a basic bitch, but it's Severance. Severance is the best show of the year, and therefore it's number 1 on our list because like there's nothing better than Severance.
Yeah.
It was the best freshman year of any show I have seen in a long time, with the best finale of any show I've seen in a long time. So like the way that it was great throughout, but then the last episode was like, I actually can't wait for the second season. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I rewatched the finale again the other day because I'm just anxiously waiting for the new season. And I watched it again and I was like, I could watch this like a movie 500 times in a row. And every time just scream, like scream at my TV. It's Severance.
It's the best kind of puzzle box where it has all the J.J. Abrams puzzle box elements of what are the goats and what's with Kier and what are they really building, all that, but all of that stuff really takes a backseat to how much we love the characters and these people and how drawn into their personalities and their lives and their thrill and terror of discovery. Like if the show was just like, what's up with Miss Casey? What's in the basement? I think it would wear out its welcome. But the like we want Bert to find love. We want these
so
characters.
Badly.
We
so
want
badly.
these characters to meet their kids and figure out who they are and be at peace in their own minds. And I think that's what makes it so rich and compelling beyond the cleverness of the premise and all these sort of sci-fi ideas.
Yeah, and also what the premise says about our current work culture and stuff and our society and stuff like that. As a sci-fi element, I think that works really well too. Yeah, it's my number one too. It's great.
Well,
Fucking
I
watch
kind
that
of
shit.
feel like I have a tie. I go back and forth on my two favorite shows this year.
Yeah.
So this was one of them.
And I have a guess on what your other one is. I don't know if it's right. DJ, can I guess it?
Yeah.
Me asking, DJ, do I have your permission?
It's your show too. Yeah, go for it.
Is it The Bear?
It's The Bear. It's The Bear.
Okay.
Good job.
FX Hulu's
I've
The
worked with
Bear.
Lon for a long time, and I was like, if I know Lon, it's going to be The Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this about maybe one or two other shows already, but The Bear, it feels like you feel like that's a real restaurant with real people you've gotten to know. It feels so lived in. It feels so grounded. It doesn't feel like they're coming up with dramatic, writerly things to happen or conflicts to drive the story forward. Like, I think we were even talking about Ozark, which I don't mean this as a knock on Ozark, but Ozark, you could sort of feel every season premiere is like, who's the big bad this year that Marty's going to have to outwit down the road? And you can like feel the hands of a creative team moving the show forward. The Bear feels like a room full of people who don't really like each other, but they have to make Italian beef sandwiches. And like, I just got so pulled into it. And technically it's amazing. The performances are amazing. There's that episode that's almost one unbroken shot that's just pulling you around the kitchen and the intensity and the way they build it. It's like an unbelievable, like high wire act of a season, and I can't wait for more.
Big year for Eben Moss-Bachrach, who was in that, and Andor, and I want to say he was in something
and
else.
The Dropout.
And
he
The Dropout.
John Carreyrou in The Dropout.
Did you watch Shameless, Lon?
No, I've seen the first like season and a half, and I liked it, but I didn't get sucked in through the whole thing.
So I am obsessed with The Bear also. I think on my list of honorable mentions, this is probably literally my number 11 because it's such a great show. I worked in a restaurant for 7 years. It nails it, from watching people drink out of the Tupperware to the way they're speaking and interacting with each other. It's so good. I do think because I was a diehard Shameless fan and just watched Jeremy Allen White in a Chicago show, it was like I felt like it was watching an extension, and he's like almost the exact same character at times.
Right.
It was kind of like watching an extension, so it wasn't as new and fresh to me. So I think that's what prevented it from being in my top 10. But the way that they ended the first season and are going into the second season, I am like couldn't be more excited about. So I
love the dynamic between these characters and the idea that, next season we're going to see them sort of reinvent the restaurant and like how they're sort of working together. It's very exciting. A great premise. And
how many more?
So I want to see Oliver Platt show up at something.
How many more do you have, Lon? Out of curiosity.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
Okay. My top three are Reservation Dogs season 2, then The Bear, and Severance.
Okay, then I'm just going to knock out. I don't need to get into these. I've talked about these shows. Better Call Saul had its final season this year. Fucking fantastic show. This final season was great. Love
high
it.
atop my runners.
Is that your number 2, DJ?
My number, yeah, that is. And then number 3 would be Peacemaker. I love Peacemaker again. I'm a superhero nerd. Peacemaker was fucking great. We mentioned Jody Hill earlier. He directed. The fact that Jody Hill directed an episode of a superhero show blows my mind. And
you liked Peacemaker better than The Boys?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, boys, just real quick, honorable mention for me. Again, AMC Plus has Interview with a Vampire, Moonhaven, Dark Winds, and Pantheon. All great shows. Recommend all of them.
Yeah, I really liked Pantheon.
I'm only 2 episodes in, and it's fucking melting my brain. It's like, God
Pantheon's
damn it.
like this animated freak out sci-fi thing that is really clever and smart. It's based on a whole bunch of short stories, and I feel like you can tell that they're drawing on like rich source material.
It also has one of the most graphic scenes when you find out how your brain gets scanned. When they show in the second episode how your brain gets scanned in the machine, it's probably the most harrowing thing I've seen on TV this year. But stuff we haven't mentioned: Our Flag Means Death. Peaky Blinders had its last season this year. It was great. I like Tokyo Vice. I thought it's my jam.
I do too.
The lead guy, whatever. But I like the show. I enjoyed Halo, Bel Air. Boys is on there. I think Boys, this is their best season so far. Barry, Rami, I think they're both still great, but they both make me sad. Those were just some things that were on my list, my honorable mentions that we didn't talk about.
Yeah, I got a few. Oh, go ahead, Rex.
Do it.
No,
do it.
You got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were. We haven't talked about Hacks. I thought Hacks season 2, maybe not quite. I don't think I quite liked it as much as season 1, but I still really liked it. Gene Smart absolutely destroys a very, very funny show. Just another one of those, like, it's a comedy first. And like, they're going to get Meg Stalter out there being hilarious in every episode. It does not lean too much into the drama. And I really appreciate that. Love The Boys season 3. I think Anthony Starr as Homelander is one of the best performances on all of TV right now.
Yeah.
Love that guy. I really enjoyed The Rings of Power on Amazon. It's very deep into the Tolkien lore. And I get that if you're not a book reader who's really fixated on Middle Earth, it might have taken a while to appeal to you, but I was really impressed by how they pulled it together and thought the epic scale really worked. I really liked, as DJ mentioned, Dark Winds on AMC Plus. Looking forward to another season of that. Yeah. Reacher on Amazon. Going to give a shout out to Reacher, which I thought was a lot of fun. Just like a pure escapist male fantasy dad show of the highest order that it was very easy to watch and fun and entertaining. And then lastly, it's on Apple TV Plus. It's coming back for one final season in January. No one talks about this show. One of the best horror shows on TV. Servant. M. Night Shyamalan produces and directs a bunch of episodes created by this guy, Tony Bosgalop. It is not a guy jumps out at you with a knife kind of horror show. It is a very slow burn, creepy, mounting dread over the course of multiple seasons. But if you've stuck with it, it is so freaky and weird now. It's like unsettling throughout. Like, it manages to sustain an air of being like intense and upsetting that most shows cannot even approach.
What about you, Roxy?
Also, Rupert Grint is amazing in it. He's doing fantastic work. I feel like nobody knows him except as Ron Weasley.
Yeah, he's been doing good TV work. He's been on a couple TV projects that have been really good. Roxy, stuff we haven't mentioned, real quick.
A lot of crossover with what you guys did mention. Hacks for sure, Bel Air for sure, Rami for sure, The Boys for sure, Peacemaker for sure, The Bear for sure. Things that we haven't really talked much about. Wednesday, I know it's a latecomer, but that show was just effing awesome. Euphoria was great. White Lotus has been crushing it this season. Pam and Tommy, I think, was the best of the true crimes, even though she didn't want it made, so I didn't put it on my list because I had Ajita about that. Yellowstone, always going to be very high on my list. And The Great, which I think is seriously incredible television, and I hope more people pick up that show.
So many things to watch. I asked everybody on the Discord what their top 10s were. We don't have time to list all their top 10s, so I'm going to say some things that weren't mentioned. Leonard Kim mentions The Orville, which is also on Mike Joyce's list. He mentions Rings of Power as well, Vikings Valhalla, As We See It. I don't even know what that show is. Leonard Kim also mentions Wednesday on Mike Joyce's list is The Sandman and What We Do in the Shadows. Another great season of that show. Kayla Marie also mentions Stranger Things, Abbott Elementary. She also has Hacks. Only Murders in the Building. I enjoyed the season. Didn't think it was as good as the first one. And she says Euphoria is on there somewhere. Listen, we're running long, so we're gonna wrap it up. Lon, where can people find you?
Oh, find me on Twitter, as long as there's still a Twitter, I guess, at LONS is the place to do that. You can also check out my TV thoughts in the Inside Streaming newsletter. That's at inside.com/streaming. Lastly, if you want to hear me talk about TV even more than this, you can check out Binge Boys, my podcast with Hal Rudnick. That's on Spotify, Apple, wherever you like to get podcasts.
It's a lot of fun. Check it out. There'll be links in the description. Roxy.
I like that we were running Lon.
We're running Lon.
At Roxy Stryer, everywhere that matters.
You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. You can follow the show at Only Stupid Answers everywhere that matters, but on Twitter and Hive.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
And we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.